success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Realtor Growth listeners. Today I have Ben Juncker. He is the co-founder and CEO of Craftsman Choice. The best way to describe it, a siding construction renovation company?
Yeah, exterior remodelers, kind of way we describe ourselves.
What's the elevator pitch? I mean, I guess that was pretty eloquent. I mean, if someone asks you, what do you do? Is there like a more depth, or how does that work out?
Well, so, we are transforming homes. You can just reside a house, but we like to create that opportunity to remodel the exterior, to get some design pieces in there. And instead of just a maintenance piece, you're actually designing the home that you want to, using better quality materials.
And if you guys have time, go into the show notes, go on their website. You scroll all the way down, you'll see basically the before and after. You can kind of slide through and see exactly how they go. It's a pretty cool feature to see kind of what some siding can do to your home. Drastic differences. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with James Hardie Siding that you're allowed to do, is they've got so many different parts and pieces and different design areas. You're able to do anything that you can with wood with a cement-based product.
And also, besides having the company, I mean, this is something I think more unique than, at least for people that I've had on the podcast, where you actually help other individuals from kind of growing their business, other people in your own field. Yeah,
we, like most construction companies, I stumbled my way through those early years and some of the growing pains, and we've developed a pretty robust, repeatable process in our CRM, a customizable CRM, where we're able to track every piece of the job that we want to happen, from when the job's sold all the way through to picking up that final check that assigns tasks automatically, and we're able to track where the job is exactly at each point. And so having that process written down and in a way that's we're able to share with companies, that's where we see a lot of people struggle. That $2 to $3 million range is about the cap for one guy and maybe his helper. When you start bringing on admin staff and office and project managers, you have to know what they should do. And so that's where I'm able to help some other contractors that James Hardie partners with us on.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing to kind of dive deeper in later in the podcast. But let's rewind a little bit. I mean, was a young Ben always into construction? Was he always, working with his hands?
Not really. I actually wanted to be a marine biologist, so a little bit different path, and I think that's pretty consistent with our industry. Nobody really sits in their high school career planning class and says, I want to be a roofer, at least the ones I was in. But, a series of poor life choices led me to be up on a roof, tearing off shingles, and realized pretty suddenly that, that wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And got hooked up with my two business partners at the time, and we came across the James Hardie Siding, and that's really what kind of spurred us on to start our own company, and got some guerrilla marketing tactics with rollerblades and filling mailboxes and cutting up pieces of siding and giving those out to homeowners, and really just stuck to the James Hardie Siding and trying to make that our specialty. And we were right. It took off. That was in 2000, and then mid 2015, we were able to get their President's Club award, which that year we were the top contractor in the nation for remodelers. So we've been, in the top 5 or 6 since then.
Well, let's rewind. You talked about making some bad choices that got you on that roof. What kind of choices are you talking about?
So I went to college for about a semester, and I passed my basketball class and my skiing class. But the other stuff I didn't really have too much time for. I was pretty young. I graduated when I was 17, went out to school, definitely wasn't ready to be on my own and to be making those life choices. But dropped out of college and ended up, with some substance abuse issues, and finally just woke up and like, look, I'm too old for this. I get like 20, 21, and just realized that it's time to make a change, and just put my nose to the ground and started putting siding on the wall.
Do you recall why you ended up going to college? I mean, was it always the plan?
It was just the plan. Yeah. My, my folks had wanted me to do it. And I was a fairly good student in high school. But it's what you do, right? Like after high school, you go to college, and we see a lot of people that are coming into our trade now, they want to be in construction. And so they know that in high school that they want to be in construction. And so they're either going to a trade school or something. That never was on my radar. It was just, it just happened. I was broke, and somebody needed somebody to clean up shingles. And so that's where I started.
What was that transition of having the job as a roofer compared to starting a business with your friends?
So what we found was that, the guys that we were working for really didn't have that great of an idea of what they were doing either. So that first roof that I worked on, I ended up being in charge of that project at the end of the job, because he fired the other guy because he didn't know what he was doing. So that's the way I met my business partner. Was he was on vacation. The boss told him, hey, you got to go out and meet this guy, Ben. This roof is a disaster. They don't know what they're doing. And so that transitioned into just forming a good crew that we had together. And we said, why do we need these guys? Matt had some experience in sales. We knew how to install the products that we were going to sell. So we broke off on our own, and that was in 98 that we started the business.
How was, I know you talked about guerrilla marketing, of actually going out there, putting sample siding in homeowners' doors. I mean, what was that process like of fighting for your next deal?
It was great. My daughter at the time, she was 4 or 5, and she still remembers going around and passing out flyers and doing that. And, we talked to people that had the need, but didn't have the funds. And so that got us into, a little bit of financing. How do we bridge that gap between people whose houses are in disrepair to try and figure out how to get them funded so we could do the project. So that kind of got us into the financing part. And then the sales, I still remember the first, siding job I sold. It was, I think, like $11,000 or something, but we're calling everybody, and it was a big deal because that fed us for another 3 weeks. We were eating turkey sandwiches instead of bologna sandwiches.
So you're building the company with your 2 co-founders. I mean, what was the process of having 3 minds working towards the same goal?
So we each had our own skill set. I was kind of the finance guy. Matt was the sales guy. And then Joel was the install guy. He was great at installation. And, as we got further down that path, the installation turned into us not installing, but us finding crews to install. And, unfortunately the install guy, kind of got mixed up in some substance abuse issues. And so we had to let him go, which was really tough. This is a guy that helped us build the business, that was there when it was 20 below, putting the siding on with us, in the trenches. But it got to a point where we just couldn't drag that along anymore. So that was one of our first big hurdles, was how we handled that, how we were able to divvy up those responsibilities after that break occurred.
How did that conversation kind of come forward? How did it look?
At that point, he really wasn't, in his right mind. So there wasn't much of a conversation. It was mostly, just paperwork, and he kind of ran with. We ended up buying him out, and he kind of ran with the check, and that was it.
And now he's gone, and you're basically building this business. What are some other things you kind of had to work through on kind of building your company to where it is today?
So in 2014, I bought my other business partner out. He had been doing that as I had his entire adult life, and he wanted to try something else. And so he moved out to Montana. He ended up running a spray foam rig. It was a very amicable split. We both look very fondly at what we built together. He actually is back in the business. He moved out there for about 3 years and then has come back, and now he's selling for me. So still good friends. He's back as a part of the team. But that 2014, now everything is on my shoulders. Matt had kind of run the sales and marketing. So now I had, some new things that I had to learn and how to do. And that's when we implemented that CRM so that we could, stretch our ability to scale without bringing on a ton of people and creating that repeatable process that is everything that we want to have happen on every single job. And that's really helped steer us and guide us to where we are now.
How did that come about? Did you have like a coach that kind of told you to put some system in place, or was it just?
We didn't. We found, I knew we needed some software or some type of CRM to track all this. We wanted something that implemented, that worked with QuickBooks, so we didn't have to redo our accounting. And so we limited it to a few different softwares that we thought might work. And Contractors Cloud, the one that we ended up choosing, was the only one that had customizable workflows that we could do some marketing pieces. There's a customer portal where the people can log in, the customers can log in, a vendor portal where the crews can find their work orders. Really kind of had the whole package that we were looking for. And so what we did once we found that is it was really cold for about 3 weeks in that year in January. And we brought everybody inside with whiteboards everywhere. And we just drilled down on, everything that we want to have happen on every job. What kind of documents do we want to have that we upload to the system? There's the accountability that's built into that is it won't go forward to the next piece of the workflow unless somebody uploads, say, like, the sold contract or the proposal. And so having that accountability, having one space, one place for all the guys to go to and can instantly know what's going on with that job has helped us to kind of limit the amount of staff that we have, but still everybody to have eyes into that project. So that was a 3 weeks of hard crunching, and then building out the system in there was, 4 or 5 months of just tedious computer work that we ended up doing. But no coaches or anything. I mean, we kind of knew what we wanted to do. We just didn't have a way to get there, and a system and Contractors Cloud helped us to get there.
So you said in that time frame, it was the weather was so bad that you weren't basically able to do any construction?
Yeah, it stayed below zero for 3 weeks straight. I mean, it was horrible.
So did you have a plan that you wanted to do this, or was it kind of like, oh, I got to figure out a way to keep the business going, or was it just waiting for this snowstorm to happen, or what happened there?
No, it was shortly after, I bought out Matt. We knew we had to do this. We were just able to get 3 consistent weeks to really go at it hard, and to have. One of the things that we probably wouldn't have done if we hadn't had that was to bring the crews in and to say, what does it look like from your end? What do you want from us? And that was very helpful and insightful to have the guys who are swinging, the hammers to say, hey, we need this, because we wouldn't have thought of a lot of the things that we ended up implementing and putting in if we hadn't had that. Those guys don't get paid if they're not putting things on the wall. So we were able to, have lunch with them and bring them in where, if we hadn't had that stretch of weather, we might not have had that opportunity to get them off the wall and pick their brain a little bit.
So 3 weeks to put together the plan. How long did it take to implement it?
We're still working on it. The guys that were around, we hired a new project manager at that time. I promoted one of our project managers to general manager. So the guys that were around pre-Contractors Cloud, it was a little tougher for them to get on. But the project manager that started right there, that's all he knew. That's the way it was. One thing that's nice about that Contractors Cloud is that you can change it at any point. You can add things, you can update, and add different milestones within each workflow. So that's been helpful. But I would say we didn't really get rolling on it for probably about 2 years, to where everybody trusted the system, to where you could look in there and they trusted the output that was coming out of it. Because, if guys aren't updating the tasks, they're not going in there and doing it, nobody's going to trust the information that's coming out of it.
And then how long after that process of kind of putting together did the company start reaching out to you, the siding company, and actually ask for your help in helping growth for other contractors?
It probably pretty close to that. 2016, somewhere in there, they started doing these contractor summits, and so they would have breakout sessions in there. And during that, we'd have some sidebars where they'd want me to meet one-on-one with a company to see where they were at. But the consulting thing was probably 2019, where I started going down that road. Unfortunately, COVID hit and kind of put a damper on some of that. So we're looking to restart that up and get out there again. But that part's fun. I love working with businesses that were, where we were 10, 15 years ago, and hopefully helping them to kind of shorten that, banging your head against the wall phase, where you're trying to figure everything out and you have no work-life balance and your company owns you, to, cut that from 3 years to, a year by implementing some of these strategies.
Being a leader, being an owner of a company compared to being a consultant, and what are the differences that you've kind of seen and growing in both forms?
Being the leader of the company, that you're able to make those decisions, and a lot of times people don't question you just because you're signing their check, right? Like, so if as a consultant, you better have a plan behind the answer, to make sure that, the whoever you're talking to, that they're, that they trust you, that what you're doing. They're gonna question you a little more probably than, one of your guys, when he comes to you with something, he's just gonna go do it most of the time. Sometimes there's a little pushback there, but I'd say that's the biggest difference.
Do you have like an idea in your head of where you hope the percentage of your time is going to be more on the business compared to the consulting, or is that kind of just free flowing?
It's pretty free flowing, and as our business has grown, we brought a few more people in. I find that my time throughout the year changes a little bit. During the winter months, I'm heavy into, redoing the website, marketing, getting ready. Now, we're into full scale production mode, and I've got a general manager, a production manager, project managers that take care of the production side. So, I don't need to be as dedicated to the day-to-day on the production side, because I have people that are doing that. So, it's going to fluctuate time of year and what we're working on. But I would say it'd probably be, around 10% of my time would be the consulting gig. I also am a bishop at church, so that's like having a second full-time job. That's probably 30 hours a week that is dedicated to that. So that keeps me busy as well.
The being a bishop at church, I mean, when you first started the business, was that always what you were doing on the side? Were you doing both this time, growing this company and also being a church figure?
So I've had different church positions over the years. Nothing as in depth as I've had. I've been bishop for about 4 years, and usually it's around 5 to 6 years that you serve as bishop. So it came at a pretty good time. But I've been pretty involved throughout my time in the business in church, but not as heavily as now. I'm basically the leader of the local congregation here, so that takes a fair amount of time. to do. But my guys were great. When I was called as a bishop, we had a meeting, sat down and said, I'm going to have less time for some of these things. So I need you guys to step up and in these areas. And everybody was great and supported me in that.
Was there any fear when you started giving up more of your time to, I guess, the church and also for your family and taking it away from, I guess, the business?
There was, but I think the faith outweighed the fear in that situation. I truly believe that, the time you dedicate to the church, that that the Lord's going to take care of you and you're gonna be okay. And that's totally been the case, and we've seen it prove out in our lives. And my wife and I have been extremely blessed by our business, by our church service.
Is that what helps you in, like, when you're going through, I guess, issues with the company, like when you had to let go of that partner? I mean, things like that. Is it going back to the church and allowing you to kind of push forward with faith?
Yeah, and kind of a different perspective, especially coming from, where I have to building the business. I think, you have that perspective that, I still have my tool belt, that if everything, goes down, I have no problem in going and installing again. Hopefully it never gets to that point. I'm 43 and my back kind of hurts, but I'm not really afraid of getting to that point. And we've run a pretty lean business as far as the debt that we've taken out and that kind of thing. We try to keep the debt pretty low, so we're in a pretty good place. But having that perspective and that faith that things are going to work out has been vital to where we're at.
Where do you see your expansion, your growth over the next 5 years?
So 2 years ago, we expanded into a new market in Minnesota, here up in St. Cloud. Marvin gave us one of their window lines up there. So we've got one of our guys working up there, and I see that growing. I think we did, about $500,000 there last year. And, we're probably going to be about $1 million there this year. And so there'll be some growth up there. There's some other markets that we might dip our toe into here in Minneapolis or in Minnesota, but we're really focused on maximizing each project. So rather than more projects, how can we squeeze every dollar out of every house that we're in by selling more expensive products, higher grade products, so that we can do the same amount of work, but the revenue on each project is a little higher. And we've seen that, especially with design, implementing design and having people access to designers that can help, transform the exterior rather than just siding off, siding on. We can offer different pieces. And that's really what the clients are looking for now, is not just to solve the problem of bad siding, but to take this opportunity and really make their house a showpiece.
Is there ever any kind of worry about being that you have a main supplier for your siding, that if they were ever to leave the business or something were to happen, that you would have to kind of pivot, or does that not really kind of come about?
It doesn't. I mean, James Hardie is, the number one siding brand in North America. And so I'm not too concerned about that, but, we could pivot to, we field a fair amount of calls from other manufacturers that are trying to get us to come aboard. So we could do that, but it's not a huge worry. We, all of us really believe in the product, that it is the best product for Minnesota homes. And so that, I think they're a $15 billion company. Not that, any business is infallible, but they're doing pretty well right now.
Well, thank you, Ben, for being on the Road to Earth podcast. If someone's listening and they're looking to just get an idea to beautify their home, or get an idea of what's even possible, what's the best way of them getting more information?
So our website's the best source. We really put a lot of work into it and made it interactive as far as, being able to sort projects by color and and trim and different pieces. So craftsmanschoice.com, that's a great resource for people to get in touch with us.
And if someone's reaching out based in an area that maybe you don't work in, do you have partners or people you know in other communities?
We do. Yeah, I keep in contact with a lot of the guys that work in a lot of the markets, and so we have quite a few people. Our website is fairly popular when you search for siding. So we get contacted by people a lot that are out of market, and then if I don't know anybody in that area, then we'll get in touch with the manufacturer and find out who the Craftsman's choice in their market is.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Ben, for being here. One last question. I'm really intrigued by the idea that one of your ex-partners is now an employee. I mean, a lot of people, I think a lot of business owners would be scared for something like that to happen. I mean, because undermining or whatever. I mean, what's some things you've learned in allowing that to happen and making it prosper?
I've surrounded myself with just great people first, and then we've tried to coach them into whatever role they have. And Matt's just a great guy. He's a guy that I've trusted with my life multiple times. And when the opportunity came for him to come back into the business, we welcomed him with open arms. He knows every piece of the business, so sales for him is it's fun, and again, I trust him, and we know 25 years it's been the great ride, and we'll always share that bond of building this together with our stuck to the seat of our 1969 F100 in the summertime, rolling down the road. That creates a lifelong bond that him and I share.
I actually have one last question. Okay, you talked about
Sure.
hiring good people. I mean, do you have a hiring process? Is it word of mouth, or is there actually a process where you're finding people off the street, or what's the best way for you of hiring people?
A little bit of both. Most of the people that we've brought in as employees have worked with us as subcontractors, and so we're able to see how they run a crew, see how they interact with our staff, and when they're ready to get off the wall and hang their tool belt up, we've been able to provide that opportunity for them.
Well, again, then thank you, Ben, for being here today. Hopefully, everyone listening got some great nuggets right there. I mean, you can tell that Ben's very even keel, and he has faith in kind of where he's going and what he's doing and what he's building right there. I mean, please subscribe, please share, go in the show notes, and go find Ben. Thanks, everyone.